him of the situation. He would go search first, and ARUMA would be called when needed because going together now wouldn't help. ARUMA went home and reattached the demon mask. He used glue and even tape, but it didn't react. Just as he was getting frustrated, it suddenly woke up and didn't know what had happened. Remembering that he sensed demons before losing consciousness, he sensed that aura again. He told ARUMA that Kidama had taken Rory and had come here. Before Kidama could arrive, he was intercepted and attacked by Kenmi's subordinate. ARUMA ran outside and encountered Kenmi and Kagami arriving. When Kagami heard that Kidama had kidnapped Rory, he remembered that the little girl he almost hit was the one who had escaped with Kidama. The subordinate was now showing superiority over Kidama. He knocked away her gun, but she was ready to fight hand to hand. She soon pushed him away and retrieved her gun. Her contemptuous attitude gave him a chance to approach and give her a sword strike to the arm before escaping. She had to pull out the sword and shoot it when it turned into a demon, then return to find Kenmi. Knowing Kidama had escaped, Kenmi wasn't worried because his subordinate had already planted a tracker during the fight, so Kagami quickly set off. Kenmi also told ARUMA he could come to his place to get power control medicine if needed. Kenmi then had to return to base to treat his subordinate, while Kagami followed the signal he provided to search. He didn't let ARUMA come along for fear of him losing control, but ARUMA still decided to take a car and follow Kagami. The demon mask knew ARUMA cared about Rory because if anything happened to her, he would become useless. He then followed Kagami, and as he was following the signal, it suddenly disappeared. The place where it vanished was a military shelter, but just a few minutes later, the signal returned. Kagami suspected there was a problem with this place, so he told ARUMA to show himself and gave him the demon mask. Knowing ARUMA wanted to help, he let him investigate this place while he followed Kidama. He gave ARUMA a box of stones in case he encountered Rory again, to give her to activate her power. Rory was now having her blood drawn. She had asked to go to the bathroom, and after some consideration, the little girl released her. But Rory immediately resisted and asked where this place was. However, only Kidama could enter and exit this place. The reason both of them escaped from Kenmi's place was that it was freer here and less frightening than human society out there. The little girl suddenly showed strange symptoms similar to Rory's, surprising her. The girl revealed that her brother had been killed by Kenmi before fainting. She and Kidama never lied because they didn't want to be as evil as humans. Meanwhile, when Kenmi heard that a suspicious location had been found, he set out. Kagami had followed the position where the signal stopped and discovered that the tracking device had been hung on a vehicle, and the place ARUMA entered was actually Kidama's lair. But ARUMA had gone too deep for the support team to contact him anymore. ARUMA now faced Kidama. He decided to tell him the truth and asked him to follow. He took him to meet Rory and was worried because the little sister didn't feel well. They couldn't take her to the hospital now because no one would treat them. He decided to tell them both the truth that they were being used by Kenmi. The story about the little girl's brother being killed was true. The truth he revealed was that Kenmi was experimenting on people with power from the stones. He had captured and taken away their freedom, and then used the name of scientists to torture them. Therefore, he and this little girl escaped, and if caught again, they would both die. Not only Kenmi, but also those who desire this power are pursuing them both. That's the truth they must accept, and if they understand, it's best not to get in his way anymore. Kidama planned to kill Kenmi to gain freedom, but ARUMA was determined not to let him do that. He asked ARUMA what goal he was fighting for. As ARUMA was struggling to answer, suddenly the place was attacked by something.
Stop posting every day if you want to grow.
Suddenly the place was attacked by something.
Stop posting every day.
Discovered that the thing attacking this place was the out-of-control demon that Kenmi had pursued before. Kenmi also arrived shortly after to find Rory and ARUMA. ARUMA began showing signs of losing control, while Kidama transformed to fight. He kept pushing the demon away to fight elsewhere, but this demon was completely out of control and stronger than Kidama. However, he knew who was inside this out-of-control demon. As he was dodging, suddenly Kenmi rushed in to attack. He grabbed Kidama by the neck, said something, and then let the demon blow Kidama away. He flew towards ARUMA, and the little girl rushed out to help Kidama, causing ARUMA to be under more pressure from the boulder and drop the stone box. The demon rushed over and stopped in front of this little girl. The girl recognized her brother, but Kenmi came to attack, forcing Kidama to redirect that attack to the out-of-control demon. He then escaped to take the little girl away, while the demon turned to attack Kenmi. ARUMA wanted to get Ruri out of there. She grabbed a nearby stone and gave power to him. He escaped from under the boulder and fought the demon alongside Kenmi. He wanted to say something but fought with him first before thinking. Kenmi believed this demon had lost its humanity and wanted ARUMA to finish it off. But he didn't use weapons and only fought hand to hand, allowing the demon to escape. He then asked Kenmi about what Kidama had said. Kenmi only claimed that his experiments were to help, not harm those people, then left. ARUMA now didn't know who to believe, while Ruri wanted to think for a while. When returning to the base, Kenmi had recaptured the demon and originally released it to deal with Kidama, and he would go catch the little girl named Faye back. But the fact that the demon still had some humanity was unexpected, and he saw that ARUMA and Ruri had begun to suspect him, so he would find a way to lie to divide them. Faye was crying because her brother was still alive, but was no different from a monster. Kidama was determined to protect the little girl to the end. A few days later, Ruri asked Kagami to investigate more about Kenmi's research area. She decided to make a contract to meet ARUMA. He was cleaning his house when she came, forcing him to put everything away before opening the door. Ruri got straight to the point that she wanted to make a contract so he would have a reason to fight, as he had been fighting for free until now. But ARUMA flatly refused and asked to go outside for some air. The demon mask had anticipated this and knew he had to play matchmaker for these two. Just as he came up with an idea, he was split in half, forcing Ruri to run away from ARUMA. He glued him back together, and he complained that he only had 3 days left to live and needed them to find stones to cure him. Regular stones wouldn't work, and these precious stones weren't enough. He needed a stone of affection, and to get it, they both had to hold hands. Both were shy when they heard this. 2 days later, they went to the train station to start looking for stones to cure the demon mask. ARUMA saw for the first time a normal, very clumsy Ruri, from the way she bought train tickets to forgetting to scan her ticket and tripping. She then stood waiting for ARUMA's train, and he kept shyly blushing and turning away, looking like a tsundere. But Ruri didn't know and thought she was truly troublesome and hateful. Meanwhile, Kagami went to meet an acquaintance to greet and ask for help investigating Kenmi. This person advised Kagami to stay away from Kenmi because if he investigated deeper, he would surely be silenced. Just as he finished speaking, someone was already following Kagami from behind. In the meantime, Ruri and ARUMA had gone to where the demon mask was carved. On the way, Ruri was distracted looking at things and let ARUMA go ahead. He was lost in thought for a while before remembering Ruri and turning back to find her. They then arrived at the place and asked for a piece of the demon mask stone. They held hands when receiving the stone and then let go very quickly. Ruri then called the demon mask, and he asked if they had made any progress. As they hadn't, he told them to hold hands until the stone glowed. Ruri wanted to hold hands out of responsibility, but ARUMA wanted to eat something first. They went to a noodle shop, and Ruri ordered the same bowl as ARUMA. She still felt he seemed angry, so she asked directly if he was still angry about the contract from yesterday and if he hated going out with her. When he heard her say everything, he realized he had made her misunderstand. Actually, he fought not because he was forced by her, but because he also wanted to protect everyone. He understood that his words had contradicted his heart and hurt her, but he would change the way he spoke. They paid and left, with the shop owner asking ARUMA if he had done that yet and raising his pinky finger, which confused Ruri. When she asked ARUMA, he had to say it was a sign of friendship. They were then able to comfortably hold hands and go for a walk. While walking with ARUMA, Ruri realized that ARUMA had lived here before because many adults still recognized him. He told her that he had lived here before his father disappeared. He then asked her to wait in front of the train tracks so he could try racing the train, which he still lost as always. He then told Ruri about his former friends here. He had been happy with them until one day, his friend was bullied. He took off the stone on his neck and unleashed his power, causing his friends to fear him. Since then, he and his mother moved away, and he couldn't make new friends. They then decided to go home and stopped by the beach. Ruri said she had met ARUMA before, but he didn't remember. He wondered why the beach was still crowded at this hour, and an old man told them that this beach had an accident before, but was now reopened. So many people were still playing until now. They played on the beach for a while, and when Ruri accidentally stepped on a shell, ARUMA carried her to the shore and bandaged her foot. They also played with sparklers, and ARUMA decided he would change from now on because he had found his goal and the person to fight for. When they got home, the maids asked how their date went. Ruri raised her pinky finger, causing the maids to misunderstand. The demon mask had been fixed, and the recent incident was his lie to help the two progress, which seemed to have worked. Kenmi now knew that Ruri was suspecting him, so he had to prepare strategies to deal with it. In the following days, ARUMA continuously had to train with Kagami to the point of exhaustion. He mostly got beaten and didn't know if he could keep up with this training schedule. On the way to school, Kana wondered why he had been appearing less at the riverbank lately. He wondered why she let someone like him into the club. She thought he was quite similar to a rock she wanted to add to her collection. Simply that. In class, ARUMA remembered he hadn't done his homework due to training with Kagami. Ruri had done the homework for him and gave it to him, but the teacher caught them. The teacher thought their romance wasn't wrong, but cheating like this wasn't allowed. Kana's two friends then discussed how ARUMA had changed from the beginning of the year until now. ARUMA then received an outline from Kagami, who had written it as simply as possible for him, saying if he still didn't understand, he should go back to middle school. Just then, the support team heard news of demons appearing and quickly called Kagami. However, there were not one but two demons. ARUMA then submitted his test, and the teacher was surprised at how quickly he had improved and had friends helping him. He then met Kana and went home with her. Everyone had become more open with him. He didn't know if he was the one who had changed or if people had changed their view of him. It seemed the change started when he got involved with Ruri. He suddenly met Ruri again, and she reported an emergency, so he excused himself from Kana and left. He then took a plane to the location of one demon while Kagami would handle the other. Both sides were ready. ARUMA quickly jumped down and faced the demon. It didn't move, so he was about to attack first when suddenly it moved at the speed of sound and gave ARUMA a beating, not giving him time to react. Meanwhile, Kagami had confronted the second demon. This one was fatter than the other, and when it felt attacked, it ripped off one of the robot's arms, forcing Kagami to retreat. The demon beside ARUMA, after giving him a hard time, dropped the helicopter of the maids and began to accelerate away. ARUMA was forced to chase after it. As for Kagami, when he fired a laser cannon at it, the demon opened its mouth to swallow the blast and shot it back. A car that the maids had prepared nearby was grabbed and put in its mouth. When Kagami rushed to ram the demon, it calmly dragged Kagami along. Ruri had finished charging her gun and shot a bullet through its body, but missed the core, angering it. ARUMA, after chasing it for a while, was thrown off and repeatedly kicked in the head, but he still tried to fight. The fat demon returned as much as it ate, while ARUMA was planted into the ground by the demon and repeatedly attacked with speed. Having taken enough beating, he had a power breakthrough and grabbed the demon, throwing it away. He freed himself from the ground and used his scarf to tie up the demon, flinging it up and flying to twist it, causing it to split in half. He then headed towards the remaining demon and accelerated. The power gave him new legs, helping him accelerate and jump further. Ruri was now in front of the demon. As it raised its foot to eat her, ARUMA rushed in to knock it down and delivered a finishing blow. Just when they thought it was over, suddenly 2 lights on the heads of the 2 demon corpses unexpectedly flew up. They merged and flew straight into the city. ARUMA then chased after them because his armor hadn't disappeared yet. His body was exhausted, but his will remained. He used his power to turn himself into an arrow aimed straight at the demon. It tried to shoot out flames to push him back, but in the end, the protagonist still won. A few sparks from ARUMA flew and hit where Ruri's sister was. The next morning, ARUMA came to school quite early. He had put the stone he often carried into the display cabinet, and Kana believed the stone would now be with friends, just like ARUMA himself. A few days later, Ruri heard that her sister had a strange development. On that day, ARUMA was in class and found it odd that the other 2 didn't come to school. Suddenly, Ruri came to school to find him and led him home. She told ARUMA that her sister had unexpectedly escaped from the crystal layer but hadn't woken up yet. There were no brain waves and she seemed to be in clinical death. The reason her sister became like this was because of the power ARUMA had emitted before. So she asked if he felt anything strange, but he was completely normal, which made her cry helplessly. She then apologized to ARUMA for suddenly calling him here and crying, but he wanted to hear about what happened to her family that day to hope there might be a way to help if possible. 5 years ago, when Ruri and her family were preparing for Christmas, Kagami and his father were helping the family with preparations. Kenmi also came later, and the 2 sisters and Kagami went upstairs to make decorations themselves. Ruri's parents had decided not to sponsor Kenmi anymore. Although what he was doing could help Ruri control her power, Ruri's father still thought his actions were inhumane, and Ruri's sister overheard this. The way to distinguish the 2 sisters was to look at their hair ties: blue for the older sister and red for the younger. The next morning, the older sister went to call Ruri down to leave for the mansion with their parents. Suddenly, when the older sister picked up the wreath that Ruri had worked hard to make, it suddenly tore and was ruined. Although they managed to pick it up, the angel figurine was damaged and Ruri adamantly refused to let her sister fix it, stubbornly holding on to it. She got angry at her sister and left. She locked herself in her room, and Ruri's family and Kagami's father decided to return to the mansion first, while Kagami was instructed by his father to stay behind to watch over and bring Ruri back when she calmed down. Kagami then went inside and waited with Ruri, while Ruri's family had arrived at the mansion and started waiting there. The guard then took out a bottle of wine to have a meal on the occasion of Christmas. Suddenly, the guard dogs barked fiercely and were then attacked by the out-of-control fire demon. At this time, Ruri was crying because she had spoken too harshly to her sister, while her sister felt guilty for ruining her younger sister's decoration. Kagami's father outside noticed the demon and rushed into battle, but its strength surpassed his guns and weapons, so he was helpless. Ruri had finished repairing and was ready to go home with Kagami. The house servant had just finished preparing food when the demon suddenly burst in. Kagami was still on the way home with Ruri. Ruri's father was then found by the demon. He knew it was sent by Kenmi and was immediately burned. Ruri's mother and older sister tried to run away, but were also caught and killed by the demon. In the critical moment, her older sister unleashed her power and trapped herself in crystal. When the demon went outside, it encountered Kagami's father. He decided to use a suicide bomb against the demon. When Kagami returned, he discovered the entire mansion had burned and his father was dying. He told Kagami what had happened and entrusted Ruri to his protection. Ruri then saw her older sister encased in crystal. I know you guys will associate this scene with Annie from that Titan movie everyone knows. To this day, Ruri still doesn't know what happened to her sister or how to free her. According to Kenmi, this was her sister using her power to protect herself. so it seems she cannot be freed by external factors. She always fights thinking her older sister is afraid of demons and trapped herself in crystal. So she will exterminate all demons so her sister will no longer be threatened and can wake up. The crystal breaking while they were fighting somewhat reinforced her belief. She wants to continue borrowing power from ARUMA, and he also decided to help her. When leaving, ARUMA met Kitama again. He still believes that ARUMA and Rory are being used by Kenmi. ARUMA wants to cooperate with him to protect others, but he thinks that even though they both have the same power, his and ARUMA's purposes are different, and he will still try to take Kenmi's life at all costs. The next day, Rory's corporation was reported on TV for tax evasion, and the police came to her house. Rory knows this is a trap, but even though the documents are false, they are made too sophisticated for her to defend against. Her bank account was frozen, and she wanted to keep some funds to maintain the organization, but the police broke in to arrest her for embezzlement. The school was then also closed. The press gathered at the school gate and only ARUMA's group was there. The group spoke out against the press to protect Rory, but ARUMA knew he had to do something and couldn't just sit still like this. He then escaped from the school with the 3 girls through a secret passage. As soon as they got out, the group met Kagami again. ARUMA blamed him for letting Rory get arrested, but he was also overwhelmed and not free. The two then left and Kana wanted ARUMA to bring Rory back and tell her they all believed she was innocent. Kagami said Rory's older sister was still in the house, but they couldn't approach her. Rory and the maids had all been taken away. Kagami knew they would have to act on their own, but suddenly Kenmi's people came to suppress them both. Rory also woke up and found herself lying on a table prepared for Kenmi to operate. Just as ARUMA and Kagami were captured, the demon mask fell down here and the maids immediately came and dealt with all of Kenmi's soldiers to help the two. They all had to evade the police to get here. Kagami didn't understand why they were helping Rory even though they had been fired, but they all said this was voluntary work to help the organization continue operating. Suddenly Faye came to ARUMA. She said Kitama had set out to take Kenmi's life and wanted to go with ARUMA. Kenmi now revealed that he would take Rory's heart, because since the time of the Aztecs, people had knowledge of this power. Warriors with this power would have their hearts taken, which was also the core of that power, to be distributed to those who craved this power. And just by having Rory's heart, he was confident he would have power equal to God. The threat to her life caused Rory's power to erupt. ARUMA sensed Rory's power and Faye revealed that Kenmi had long plotted to overthrow the Rory family to monopolize the power from the stones. Kagami realized that Kitama acting first was also beneficial as he could cause chaos among the enemy forces. Kagami and the maids will help ARUMA rescue Rory. Faye will help him find his way inside, and although she knows it's dangerous, she still wants to try to save her brother. Kenmi now decides to use extreme measures as Rory has trapped herself in crystal. He will use any means to break that crystal layer, even if Rory's body is damaged. He doesn't care because her core won't be easily destroyed. Suddenly, he discovers Kitama has charged in and also detects Rory's family's car nearby. He had anticipated this and decides to send out his female subordinate and release Faye's brother too. Kagami and the maids have encountered Kenmi's female subordinate, while ARUMA and Faye are sneaking through a secret path to infiltrate when suddenly ARUMA experiences a reaction. He has been attacked by Faye's brother and thrown inside. Faye wants to do something to help her brother and ARUMA discovers something glowing. He runs towards it and sees the demon has been thrown against the wall by Kitama. He realizes the stone he's been searching for all this time is here. Kitama has saved Faye from the demon. Faye wants to save her brother, but Kitama thinks her brother has lost his mind and it would be better to free him than let him continue to be used. But Faye is confident she has created a serum to save her brother. Kitama reluctantly agrees to his adopted sister's wish and gives her a chance to save her brother. Kagami is now struggling because his armor is too bulky to fight against someone as agile as the female subordinate. She kicks Kagami away, causing the demon mask to fall off. ARUMA has now gone alone and reached where Ruri is. Kenmi was waiting here, but he lets ARUMA do as he pleases. He approaches and his stone reacts to Ruri, who is now almost completely crystallized, forcing him to use the stone to get close to Ruri. He smashes the stone into the crystal block, and then memories from the past appear, showing that this stone was given by Ruri's mother to his mother to help him control his power. And on that very day, ARUMA had saved Ruri when she was almost hit by a falling beam. He can't believe he forgot that day, but anyway, he has now saved Ruri. Kenmi is surprised that the connection between the two is stronger than he thought, while Kidama has subdued the demon to allow Faye to inject the serum. Kenmi reveals that he knew about ARUMA's power, so 3 years ago he deliberately let ARUMA be attacked and lose the stone that was suppressing his power. But ARUMA suppressed himself through willpower, so everything that has happened to him until now was caused by Kenmi to force him to use this power. Suddenly Faye's brother arrives and destroys this place. He has killed Kenmi's assistant because he was one of those who abused Faye's sister in the past, but because he was careless, the demon had its heart ripped out and stolen by Kenmi. Faye is heartbroken seeing her brother die, while Kenmi now has what he wanted, the heart of someone with power from the stone. He has absorbed it and become an entity he considers to have reached the realm of gods. However, what he still wants is ARUMA, because his power far surpasses ordinary stone demons, as he has absorbed power from Ruri, making him the complete form. Kidama decides he must drag him to hell, but Kenmi suddenly captures Faye and takes her away, forcing Kidama to follow. ARUMA has asked Ruri to help him transform. He has changed his armor to red, and when both transform, Ruri's older sister also wakes up. Although Kagami sees that everything has stabilized, he still can't go help everyone because his opponent is still too difficult to deal with. Kidama now can't attack Kenmi because he keeps using Faye as a shield to prevent Kidama from acting rashly. Kenmi sees Kidama as too weak, but Faye knows she has always been a burden to Kidama and wants Kenmi to just take her life so Kidama can fight freely. He decides to grant her wish and flies up, but before he can take her life, he is cut by ARUMA's technique, losing his arm, and Faye is rescued. However, he quickly grabs Kidama and begins to absorb power from Kidama to recover. The demon mask now meets Ruri's older sister, and both guide Ruri and the maids to the way. Kidama now falls down after losing his wings. Seeing the person who protected her now so badly injured gives Faye such a great shock that she transforms into an armor. Kagami has now escaped and is following the demon mask's arrows to search. Kenmi has now truly transformed into a demon, his face becoming monstrous, and he wants to devour ARUMA at all costs. ARUMA has thrown him flying towards a nearby mountain to engage in battle. Faye also comes here to shoot at Kenmi, while Kagami has followed the directions to pick up the older sister. Kidama now wakes up and cannot transform, so he tells Faye to stop fighting, because all the bullets she fires are absorbed by Kenmi, who has now gold-plated his entire armor. Thanks to this, he returns to beat up ARUMA. Faye is disappointed because she just made things worse. ARUMA still has a plan. He then accelerates and runs many circles around the mountain. He then changes his weapon into a drill and charges straight into Kenmi. Kenmi is blown back to the base and his armor has disappeared. Seeing his body about to disappear, he hugs Faye and jumps down. He also takes out the core to put into Faye and then drives her mad like him. He then leaves, believing Faye will plunge the world into darkness. Faye then transforms into an inverted pyramid-shaped crystal and flies up. ARUMA has frozen the surroundings to prevent water from flooding in and drowning everyone inside, and tries to tell Faye to stop. But she believes she is the cause of suffering for everyone around her and wants to die. Deadly rays continuously shoot out and devastate the surroundings. Ruri and her sister know that only Kidama and ARUMA can stop Faye, because Kidama has been with Faye for a long time. Ruri's older sister has lent Kidima her power, and he now has a white armor to join the battle. Kidima has gone up to meet ARUMA again and asks for his help to reach Faye. ARUMA then flies up and uses his power to envelop the crystal block and uses jet propulsion to keep it from falling down. He begins to reason with Faye, while Kidima has somehow gotten inside and removed the evil core from Faye, then crushes it to free her. Everything has returned to normal afterwards. Ruri has appeared before the media to restore her company's reputation. Her organization has also been re-established and continues to operate. ARUMA decides to throw away the remaining piece of the stone to officially stop suppressing himself. Ruri's older sister has also joined the club, and the whole group goes on a cruise to travel abroad. The movie ends here.